Hello and welcome to this edition of Talking Europe. Farmers are blocking motorways and protesting across Europe. They are besieging Paris as we are recording this program. There are protests in Germany and Belgium, including here, the European district, and in Romania, where you come from, Dacian Ciolos. Welcome to our program. You are an MEP with the Renew group here at the European Parliament. You're a former commissioner in charge of agriculture and rural development, and a former Romanian Prime Minister. Thank you for being with us. Agriculture has been at the center of your career. Our other guest is Francesco Guerrero. Welcome to the program. You are a member of the Greens group here in the European Parliament, and also you're a member of the Agri Committee. Now, first, I'd like to ask you both, starting with you, maybe, Mr. Ciolos. What do you think of these protests? Do you understand why the farmers are in the street, including in your own country, Romania?
I think the biggest mistake we can do is to think that these protests are conjunctural ones. In my opinion, this is a combination of several elements accumulated on the time, which put pressure more and more on the farmers, and they feel the need to express this publicly. What is surprisingly, because you mentioned they block in some highways, access in some big cities, and despite this fact, a poll in Romania some days ago proved that 93% of the Romanian population understand and support the reaction of farmers, which means that what farmers express for some specific problems related to agriculture are resonating also with other parts of the population because of accumulation of several crises. Economic crisis with increasing of cost of energy, with a direct impact of production cost of farmers. The way that European Union managed Green Deal related to economic aspects in agriculture, we need Green Deal, in my opinion. A lot of measures are necessary, but the way that we discussed it and decided on it without taking into account an economic evaluation of impact on farmers, I think it was a mistake. On the eastern part of Europe, there is also the pressure of Ukrainian cereals on our internal market, putting the price even lowest, as long as the production costs are increasing because of the price of energy. Mainly. And globally speaking, the farmers need a vision, a perspective, need a future. And don't having this, they are afraid about their future.
You're part of the Greens. Mm-hmm. This vision, does it not exist at the moment? Do you feel that the farmers are out in the street because they've been left to their own devices?
I think this vision is on the table for more than 40 years. We in the Greens are talking about these issues since the 80s. And so this is not a lack of vision, it's a lack of political leadership in our perspective. And although I agree that there are some external factors due to the Ukrainian war, due to the ecological crisis, this is a mismanagement of the prospect of this sector. For example, we are still debating on a common agricultural policy, the incentives to produce foods. And the incentives, we could have changed it in the beginning of this mandate, but we did not. So we had just a small percentage of eco schemes that can be used by farmers to change their way of producing food to a more sustainable one, for example. But it's just a small portion. The majority of the funds continue to support the same traditional production system. And we kind of see that it's not the quantity and the quality of products, because we still lose 1/3 of our food production. It's the entire model that is being built. So it's responsibility of a division here in the EU. That's why we voted against the Common Agricultural Policy in 2019. But it's also national states that don't have the vision to change and help the farmers to make this transition. And I think we have to understand that farmers are right, and I think on this we agree, farmers are right, but they are being used by extreme agendas to push for a production and economic model that will not benefit them in a small run and also in the longer run. And unfortunately, I think we are missing an opportunity to talk to farmers, to say that they can have a better prospect if the incentives and the structural system is changed. We still continue to see that farmers, the bigger percentage, small and medium farmers, are not getting the income that they need to even survive. And so the bigger powerhouses that are correlated to bigger animal production cycles, for example, the big chemical industries, are the ones that most benefit from these incentives. And so we really need to rethink the structural aspects at the EU level, but also at national level, to really give the farmers the opportunity that they need also to fight climate change. They are really important, and they are a very important tool to fight climate change. For example, in Portugal, in the south, 70% of the water is going to be cut if we don't have changes in our agriculture system. This is a dramatic situation.
But are the farmers not lost in the transition, if you will, in a sense where, I'm also a reporter for France 24. I was on the tractors with them near Paris last week, and they were telling me, we don't understand. We're asked to have these ecological norms we have to respond to, we have to respect, and then on the other hand, the European Union is opening markets. Now it's the Mercosur deal, which is being discussed right now, and they feel that in a sense they are both asked to make great efforts, that they're not considered for the efforts they're making, and that the European Union basically is distorting competition and dumping agricultural products from abroad on their markets.
This is why I told about coherence on the way that we implement all this vision, because I agree we need to take care on the soil, the quality of soil, the biodiversity, the water. All these elements are not only natural resources, but are also elements of production for farmers. So they are the first interested to keep on it. But the way to do that, lack of coherence. And there is another element. When we make an impact assessment on these measures, the Commission came to us with an environmental impact assessment, not an economic impact assessment. So what we should do as politicians when we take a decision, we should take into account the complexity of the process. When we talk about the farmers, their main mission is to produce food for us, and the European Union is also a big exporter. We also have to take care on natural resources, so environmental fight against climate change. But there is another element with the same level of importance, is the income of farmers. How we will build in the future the income of farmers, combining the price of the food on the market, which is fluctuating with a very high level, and having a new constraint. Or are we able to take into account the value, the public value of this environmental aspect that we ask to farmers? So I think we have to take this into account and to put in coherence several European policies. Agricultural policy, with environmental policy, with trade policy, with competition policy, because all the food chain should be involved in this process of transition to green our agri-food sector.
But
and
for example,
we are not here.
But right now, you see, for example, in France, we have farmers on the street, and we have the French government, who is now, and Gabriel Attal, the Prime Minister, said it in his general policy speech just recently, he says, right, France is going to fight the Mercosur free trade agreement. Is that a good idea or not? Because I've been looking, and I've been reading papers saying also that this is irresponsible, that in the future, Europe will need these markets for its industry, for its financial services, that it's also a way of blocking China, who is investing heavily in Latin America. But on the other hand, so should we or should we not have this agreement, according to you two? I'd like to have both your answers. And because obviously there's a wider game here as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really relevant when we look at the overall system. And I would not be very afraid of China, because China is having a massive crisis that we will feel. Evergrande just filed for bankruptcy, and so this will bring a lot of problems to other countries that make trade agreements with China. But the question of the international trade agreements that we have is the way they are built in. If we look at Mercosur, and especially Brazil, the ones who are promoting these agreements are the big rural areas, so the big landowners. It's not the medium and small farmers, it's not the indigenous communities, so it's a big powerhouse. And who is going to benefit more here in Europe is the industrialized sector that will sell the machinery to them. So we are not even having the responsibility of caring for these countries and this region, and we are going to help the desindustrialization of the entire South continent. So it's not really responsible, and this will fuel the anger of European farmers. That's their rights. They will not compete. It's not possible to compete with, for example, beef from Brazil that externalizes all the ecological impact. It's impossible for us to even track the chemicals that are put and dumped into the crops that go after to cattle.
But how about you? Do you believe that, I mean, can the common agricultural policy be redirected to the right people in a sense? Is that the sense of from the farm to the fork? Is that the idea?
In my opinion, we should completely rethink common agricultural policy, the tools to support farmers, and to put together our objective to produce food, to put this in coherence with our trade agreement, because not the existence of trade agreement is problem, because we are also exporters, not only importers. But it's the capacity to absorb these negotiations in trade agreements, and also the need of level playing field. We cannot ask more exigence to our farmers and to accept food production coming from outside, not respecting the same level of exigence. So it's this coherence, and we should put together food production with environmental aspects, with the development of our rural areas, and we should have this integrated in the same policy. Now, we have some specific decisions for farmers in common agricultural policy. We have other decisions impacting farmers in environmental policy, other in trade policies. If we still lack coherence, we will lose on all the plans.
So if I understand you well, gentlemen, it is about coherence and it's about rethinking this whole policy. But anyway, thank you very much for taking part in the show. Thank you for watching, and do stay tuned to France 24.